What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Hope you're all doing very, very well. We're going to talk about Resto Druid 10.2 tier set bonus in this video. We're going to talk about all things kind of Resto Druid in a second here. But I do want to just kind of go over some fundamental problems that I've had with Resto Druid in the more recent patches and even the more recent expansions, to be honest. Yeah, this is sort of a fundamental problem going on with Resto Druid, in my opinion. When it comes to primarily Mythic Plus, I think that Resto Druid, in terms of healing raid, it's been in a very good place for a very long time, right? Because the way that raid damage comes out is it's very predictable, right? Nothing's happening, and then 30 seconds in, boom, there's this big damage spike. So you can ramp into those damage spikes as a Resto Druid, right? You can start spreading your rejuvenations around. You can make sure your Efflo's in the right place. You can really help. You can deal with those issues in raid because you know they're coming, and you know that they're coming on. Once you learn the fight, you're good to go. In Mythic Plus, the damage profile is like super spiky and it's super up and down. It's very unpredictable. It's very hard to know when it's coming. As you do the dungeons, of course, you learn how it's coming, just like anything else. But the damage itself, when it comes out, it's incredibly spiky. It's incredibly difficult to manage. Think of the opening section in Freehold, right? Those bellowers, those big pirate guys that do the bellow. Last week on Fortified and Bolstering, if you bolstered those guys, you just killed everybody in your team. Or it took everybody to like 10% health. And then you had to triage people back to full very, very quickly because there was another bellow coming like 10 seconds later. So, or not 10, even like 5 seconds later. The pack right before the very first boss is what I'm thinking of. So there's lots of instances like that in Mythic Plus where massive amounts of damage come out and you need to triage quickly back to full. Massive amounts of damage come in again, you need to triage quickly back to full. Other specs in the game have tools to deal with this, like Mistweaver Monk has Shaylin's Gift to just immediately full heal your entire party. And then you can just revival the next time it happens, or you can use another cooldown. Like you can just use your Ancient Teachings to heal everybody back up. Holy Paladin has things like Daybreak, right? Disc Priest has massive damage reduction if they want it, or they can just blow a big cooldown in order to keep everybody alive there. Whereas Resto Druid, in terms of triaging people, they don't have a massive amount of cooldowns to handle that. And Blizzard has responded to that by introducing Grove Guardians. We'll talk about them in a minute. But I just want to highlight this fact that Mythic Plus healing for Resto Druid, in my opinion, in my experience, has been really frustrating and difficult in that sense. They don't have very good reactive healing. You have to prep yourself ahead of time to deal with all these massive instances of damage. You have to have 2, 3, 4 hots rolling on multiple allies in order to make sure that you're able to handle the amount of incoming damage that's coming. You have to prep for it. You can't do it after the fact like a Resto Shaman can, because their mastery helps you just dig people out of the grave, right? So I'm not saying that they can't do keys. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's a ton of keys being done by Resto Druids on Subcreation. They're doing plus 28s, they're doing plus 29s. I'm saying that the average player playing Resto Druid, and in my experience playing Resto Druid, it's very frustrating to heal because their options for triage are not very good. And to me, that just makes the gameplay like kind of frustrating. Also, the way that Resto Druid does damage also is a little bit frustrating to me. It's less like intuitive. You have to shapeshift into something else to do a lot of damage, or you just have to have a trinket that's going to blast the heck out of people, like Beacon from the raid. So that's kind of like where I stand right now for Resto Druid. I think that there's a problem in Mythic Plus. The average player approaching Resto Druid in Mythic Plus is a frustrating process. You want to push a plus 22 key, a plus 23 key, a plus 25 key. You're going to need to really know what you're doing, and you're going to have the rest of your team to make sure they're using their defensives all at the exact right time. I think you're going to need to have an Augvoker. There's a lot of other like stipulations that make it really difficult in my mind to actually push keys as a Resto Druid, just because of the way that it works. You can see even right now in Subcreation, like, the healer list is pretty stupid, but I think Resto Druid to me is consistently kind of lower on the tier here. So what is Blizzard's response? In my opinion, I think Blizzard has seen this problem of Mythic Plus for Resto Druid. Let me know what you think in the comments down below if you've had the same experience. This has been my experience. I'm just pulling from my own experience, okay? I think that Blizzard has seen this problem and they've tried to address it in 10.2 with a lot of changes. And we're going to see those changes coming both on the class tree and the spec tree, big buffs that are coming for Resto Druid. But on top of that, with the introduction of Grove Guardians, that's going to massively change this. Let's look at the class stuff really quickly. This is what's coming in 10.2. There's a ton of buffs, okay? There's just a ton of buffs. There's new talents. I'm going to get to those, of course. I've done a full video on this before, but we're going to skim them really quickly. Grove Tending up by 30%. Grove Guardians Nourish decreased a little bit because they're slapping really hard. Swiftman Healing reduced a little bit on the Grove Guardians. Wild Growth reduced on the Grove Guardians a little bit, but that's okay. Regrowth Healing up by 20%. Regrowth Heal over time by 42%. Rejuve 25. Wild Growth 15. More damage for Wrath and Starfire. Like, really good, right? Cenarium Ward 25%. Swiftmen healing 30%. So there's really big healing buffs going on here. There was a big change to Flourish. Instead of it going for 8 seconds, it goes for 6 seconds now. And instead of it's increasing the rate of your heal over time by 100%, it's 25%. So a nerf to Flourish, but that's them sort of, I think, saying, you know what? This is still going to be a good cooldown, but you're encouraged to try other things if you want to. Okay? This is kind of what the talent tree looks like. But I think Blizzard's response to the triage problem has been Grove Guardians. I talked about this in another video. They are very strong. If you want to just think about what a Grove Guardian does all on its own, this was me casting 1 rejuvenation by myself, and then I just let Grove Guardians, I put Efflo on the ground, and then Grove Guardians did the rest. Literally did the rest. So, let me just clear this. Watch this. We're just going to cast Grove Guardians. We're going to do 1 Life Bloom here. We'll put an Efflo down, and then we'll do a Grove Guardian. Look at their healing here. They do a Swiftmen, they do a Wild Growth, and then they're casting Nourish. And the Nourish, because of the new tier set bonus, which we'll get to in a second, it's going to splash to other allies as well. This was 1 cast of Grove Guardians. 1 cast of Grove Guardians. And they ended up doing a tremendous amount of healing. We'll wait till the Efflo finishes here. 150k on Nourish. Okay. Their Wild Growth was another 70k. Their Swiftman was 50k, so that's like 280,000 healing just from 1 cast of my Grove Guardians, okay? This is really incredible because it, of course, buys you time to either go do damage or it helps you to deal with a triage situation. It helps you deal with a triage situation. You cast these guys, and they're going to cast a single target heal, which is Nourish, on your allies. That Nourish is going to get even better, by the way, if you have multiple HOTS rolling, because that's how Nourish works. It benefits from your mastery, 300% from your mastery. And then you obviously, I would take Wild Synthesis. That's what everybody does. It makes your Grove Guardians cast that Wild Growth. That's a really good amount of healing as well. And then they do have some synergies with other talents like Power of the Archdruid, but really they don't synergize super well with the rest of the tree. What they do is buy you a lot of time. And then they also synergize, with the new tier set bonus that's coming for Resto Druid. So let's dive into that tier set bonus really quickly. Again, we're thinking about this in the context of how are we going to solve the Mythic Plus problem of making Resto Druid more accessible to the average player in Mythic Plus. Because again, there are some people that are pushing really high keys. I get that. But most people, in my experience, don't like playing Resto Druid in keys. And I haven't seen a Resto Druid in keys in like months. I swear to God, I've seen maybe 1 or 2 Resto Druids in my keys in months. Okay? Here's what the tier set bonus does. You and your Grove Guardians Nourishes now heal 2 additional allies within 40 yards at 40% effective. So you get extra healing from those Grove Guardians that you summon, the Nourish. Consuming Clear Casting now causes your Regrowth to also cast Nourish onto the nearby injured ally at 200% effectiveness, preferring those with your heal over time effect. So they're really all in on Nourish or on Grove Guardians. And again, you're going to want to take Grove Guardians. In my experience, most builds are taking Grove Guardians. You don't want to sort of naturally cast Nourish. It's just not really worth it. Obviously, I'm not taking Flourish here. I know you should take Flourish. You gotta get it. I've been experimenting with things like Verdant Infusion. I've been experimenting with this new talent over here, Master Shapeshifter, which allows you to get a bunch of mana back. I think that this problem of the Mythic Plus situation is partially solved by the Grove Guardians. And what I mean by that is that they really do buy you a lot of time. to get a bunch of damage out in Mythic Plus if you want to. Again, you can cash in on things like Master Shapeshifter, or they're going to help you solve a big triage problem like the double Shattering Bellow problem I told you about in Freehold. That is something that they can help you with, right? You get this down. You're setting up before the pull. Here comes the Bellow. The first Bellow comes out. You pop a couple of Grove Guardians. So you pop 2 of them right away. Then you're going to do like a Swiftman, right? We do this, and then we're still spreading our hots. You can flourish them if you want to. Here comes the second Bellow. Boom. We're going to pop another Grove Guardian into a Convoke maybe. And you have multiple cooldowns now, which are going to help you to really fix the... Here's my third Grove Guardian here. Again, they keep coming back so quickly, right? And you can see the amount of healing we're doing right now is pretty insane. I think this is bugged right now. This is way too much healing. But my point is simply that they are now going to be able to help you. You can see I've cast a bunch of spells there, a bunch of wild growths, even some rejuves, some regrowths. But at the top of my list here is that Nourish, this Nourish from the Grove Guardians. I haven't cast Nourish myself once. This is all from the Grove Guardians and the wild growth as well coming from them. This is a really, really big deal because this is going to help you to triage really effectively during those moments. And this new tier set bonus is helping support you that way. It's helping to really prop up what I think is a massive weakness for Resto Druid, which is that Mythic Plus triage healing. This is going to help you deal with that in a really big way. And I think it's actually, I think it's part of the solution. I don't think this is the full-blown solution here. I think that they actually need a little bit more love in the talent tree situation. And I think they could use a brand new capstone talent, actually, that would replace something like Germination. Maybe move Germination up to the top of the tree. I'm not exactly sure where you put this. But I just cooked up a little idea here that I think is actually quite good. And let me make sure I've got it here. Yeah, here it is here. So here's a talent option that I think would work really well. Again, we're in the context trying to solve a problem in Mythic Plus that Druids have. Again, I want Druids to keep their identity of being this really cool class where you spread your hots around and you get the most power when you have multiple hots rolling on multiple allies. That's what your mastery is all about, right? The more hots you have rolling on one target, the more healing they're going to receive in general. I love that idea. I don't want them to become a holy paladin. But what I do want is some tools to deal with the triage damage coming in Mythic Plus. And I think you could do something like this. Here's a brand new choice capstone talent that you could take in Mythic Plus. Here's the idea. So the capstone talent would either have this talent over here called Energize or this talent over here called Revitalization. You have to choose one of these two. Here's the Energize talent. Swiftmen now has 2 charges. Consuming a heal over time effect reduces Swiftmen's cooldown by 3 seconds. Remember, Swiftmen will consume a wild growth, a regrowth, or a rejuvenation on an ally when you cast it. So if you consumed all 3 of those hots, you would get 9 seconds back on the recharge of Swiftmen. So this becomes like a cycle. You now have 2 charges of Swiftmen, which allows you to triage 2 people almost simultaneously. And if they each have 3 hots on them, then you're going to get 9 seconds off the cooldown of Swiftmen each time you cast it. 9 seconds here, 9 seconds here. That's 18 seconds. The base cooldown of Swiftmen is 15 seconds. So you could essentially get 1 full charge of Swiftmen back, and you could keep doing it again. This sort of creates this cycle. I think this would be really cool. And it might sound really overpowered, but Swiftmen doesn't even heal for that much. It really doesn't. Like, there's other heals on other healers that heal for way more. Swiftmen heals for 76,000 right now, and an additional 29,000 over 9 seconds. Holy Priest, their Serenity heals for like 120k. And if it crits, it's obviously way higher. So this is not the strongest single target heal in the game. I don't think it would be completely broken to introduce something like this into the game where you're able to really keep the Swiftmen's going as long as you have your hots rolling. It's still very Druid. It has the Druid theme. You must have your hots rolling, and you're consuming them over time. You're consuming them every time you press Swiftmen, so it's got that negative effect. But you're able to triage people more effectively, more often. It also has crazy synergies with talents like Verdant Infusion, because then your Swiftmen would no longer consume the heal over time effects. You'd have to program it in a way that it still acted like it consumed them to give you the cooldown reduction for Energize that I'm talking about. But it would also, Soul the Forest. It would work with Soul the Forest really well because you would get this extra buff. It would work really, really well with Reforestation down here. Every 3 casts of Swiftmen gives you Incarnation, Tree of Life. And of course, it would work really well actually with Overgrowth, because this would allow you to extend all of these hots on a single ally. You could go Overgrowth, Swiftmend, and then they have a huge number of hots rolling on them because of the Verdant Infusion thing. So I think this is a cool idea. I think this is a tool, the type of tool that Resto Druid needs in Mythic Plus, in my opinion, to make them more relevant. Yes, are the Grove Guardians good? Are they going to be good enough in 10.2? They're going to be a good start in 10.2. I don't think they're necessarily going to be the be-all and end-all. I think there's still some fundamental changes that you're going to need to make on Resto Druid to make it a little bit more viable in Mythic Plus. Here's the other choice talent that you would take if you're not going to take the Mythic Plus talent. You could take Revitalization instead. Rejuvenation lasts 3 seconds longer. Every 5 casts of Rejuvenation casts an additional Rejuvenation on a nearby ally. And there's synergy here with Nurturing, Dormancy, Germination, Cultivation, Abundance, right? The idea here is to simply say, hey, in Raid, you're ramping into those big damage moments. This allows you to ramp more quickly. It allows you to ramp more effectively so that you're ready to go when that damage comes out. I think this would be a really cool choice node in the bottom of the tree, somewhere like where Germination is. Maybe where I don't know, photosynthesis is also very good. So, but somewhere down here, maybe you could put this in and say, hey, if you're looking for the extra Mythic Plus tools of having those extra Swiftmends, which are going to proc Grove Guardians, they're going to proc Soul of the Forest, they're going to extend your hots with Verdant Infusion, and then you start to get the cooldown back on Swiftmend, it's going to give you more power to triage your friends. And you could layer that on top with Grove Guardians and have them as an additional cooldown. Now you would have Swiftmend being a very real cooldown for you to use, and then you would also have Grove Guardians as a cooldown to use, and then you would also have Convoke as another cooldown to use, or Tree of Life, whatever you want to do. This would, I think, give you some flexibility in Mythic Plus to finally have enough triage tools to deal with the way that the damage patterns come out in Mythic Plus environment. It's so crazy how spiky the damage is and how fast people can die in Mythic Plus if you're not able to respond quickly and effectively with your healing. So, are the Grove Guardians going to save Resto Druid in 10.2 for Mythic Plus? I think this is a good start. I think it's a really good start. I don't think that they're necessarily going to be saved by this. Like, I don't think this is going to single-handedly bring people back to playing Resto Druid in Mythic Plus. I think it's going to help, but really, I just feel like Resto Druid needs a little bit more, just a little bit more of a nudge. Something like this Swiftmend talent that I've proposed here, I think would really get you over the line. They need an additional cooldown that way because the damage patterns are just so ridiculous. Like, my friends are just dying repeatedly over and over again in the plus. I did some plus 22s and a plus 23 last week on my Mistweaver Monk. If I didn't have things like Shaylin's Gift or Revival, you know, it would be over. Like, I don't understand how Resto Druid is meant to sort of compete in that sense. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I think this is a good start. It's a good start. I like it. I like the emphasis on Grove Guardians. I like the emphasis on Nourish. I think it's a really cool angle for Blizzard to go for Resto Druid. Is it enough? I'm not really sure. We're going to have to wait and see. But I would love to hear from you guys what your experience has been in Mythic Plus. If you've run Resto Druid in Mythic Plus right now in the current season, please comment down below. Let me know what your experience has been, and I would love to know what your thoughts are moving into 10.2. Are you excited about this tier set bonus? I'm excited about it. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. That's my conclusion. Thank you so much again for watching, guys. I love you all. I will see you in the next one.